the author of a brand new book called 2535 Main Street, Rethinking Homeless America. He is the executive director and CEO of Dallas Life, the largest homeless shelter in North Texas. And we're so glad to have you on, Bob. On the front cover of the book, 2535, unless I missed it, Marvin, that looks like a verse from the Bible.
That's what I was thinking. 2535 looks like a Bible verse.
Is it?
It sure does. It sure does. We wrote 2535 Main Street with that title because we wanted people to realize that scripture that says, I was hungry and you fed me, I was naked and you clothed me, that's an everyday church ministry every Christian wants to get involved in. And doesn't every city have a Main Street? So 2535 Main Street makes us realize we're right there in our own backyard.
Mm-hmm. Well, you talk about a little bit in the book about people, the church, wanting the churches to get out of the pews and into the streets to do what Christ has called them to do. And obviously, I know you're talking about, especially in reaching, not just that, but especially in reaching the homeless. How can we do that? I mean, we may not, I think pretty much every city in America, or most cities, have some kind of homeless shelter or something to deal with the homeless situation where they live. But what do we do as Christians? How do we approach that? What do we do as believers, practically speaking?
There are about 1,500 homeless shelters in America. And our goal in folks reading 2535 Main Street is to see that they can get involved in their own city with their own shelters by plugging in. There's also some suggestions that they're going to have from their individual local executive directors to some of those shelters. We want so much for people to realize that we expect the same change in the life of a person that the average donor does out there. So when they read 2535 Main Street, they're going to see there's examples in there of lives that completely change. Churches want to get involved, and the homeless want them to get involved. So we're hoping that folks will read the book and jump in.
And I'm thinking of churches. I'm thinking of people in the pews. Mm-hmm. We want them to get involved. We want them to jump in, and we know we should. And there's probably nobody listening who is a pew warmer, as I am on Sundays, and as John is, mm-hmm. Who doesn't think I should do something. Why don't we do something?
Yeah.
You ever given any thought to that?
Yeah, I think that fear is the biggest reason why folks don't do it, even if it's a quiet, subtle fear. Mm-hmm. In the book, we point out that many people do nothing simply out of the fact that maybe they feel like someone else is going to cover it. So when they see 2535 Main Street and say, wow, here's a book coming along that's challenging me both with a Bible verse as well as seeing these hands on the front cover that look just like a house, and yet there are plenty of people that don't have a home. So our goal is to have people pray. That's the greatest thing they can do. And then beyond that, say, you know what, I'm going to give up that watching golf all day long on Sunday afternoon and maybe go back down to my shelter, because homelessness is happening in every single city. Every single one of us are going to church on Sunday morning, and our downtown shelters are still filled with people that need to have that caring Christian come out.
Hey, Bob, in the years that you've been doing this with the homeless shelter there in Dallas Life, have you ever had someone who has been through the shelter, maybe been through one of your programs, come back to you and say, Bob, I want to thank you, and let me tell you where my life is? Do you have any stories to share over the years that you've been doing this?
Oh, we sure do. We have folks, first of all, when they graduate from our program here at Dallas Life, they never need to see a shelter life again. Wow. They never go back to that again. Our graduation rate is some 7 to 8 times above, or 7 to 8 times the national average of other shelters in America because of the accountability factor. The book heavily hits the accountability factor, because if they, in 2535 Main Street, they're going to say, I read this book and I realize that people need to be responsible for their own actions. I, as a Christian, want to be responsible for reaching out and helping, but they're still being held accountable to make changes in their own lives. So we have folks that come back. We have a breakfast that we hold for our former graduates, and they'll come back and they'll tell us of the 4, 5, 6 years that they've been in the same apartment holding the same job since they left Dallas Life, and their lives are on track, and that's the most exciting part of what we do.
Bob, one of the things that has always interested me is that I see I've worked with city governments before. I mean, I've worked as a a city government employee working in some areas that kind of brought me into contact with some of the social services in the region. And one of the things that has always intrigued me is the number of programs, homeless shelters, soup kitchen ministries, all of those kinds of things, halfway houses, whatever you want to call them, is the phenomenal failure of those places. And you put a Christian organization into the same business. You put a teen challenge into an inner city neighborhood working with delinquent kids. You put a prison fellowship ministry in a prison, and all of a sudden you see a difference is being made. And it creates something of a problem because the government wants their programs to succeed, but my goodness, Bob, we have separation of church and state, so the government can't actually let you do Christian stuff. But I'm guessing that's because you don't take federal grants and that sort of thing. That's not an issue. How much gospel do the people actually get when they're in your program?
Oh, the gospel is preached each and every day. That's the first thing that we'll share with someone when we're going over the rules and the application that first night that they're here. I think the biggest reason why it's the Christian organizations making the greatest difference is because we were the ones that were told that the poor are our responsibility. It's not the responsibility of the government, local or national. It's the responsibility of the church. So if churches really did all that they were to do, there wouldn't be homeless shelters. So what we need to do is realize that through books like 2535 Main Street, we're able to look at that and say, this can be a refreshing approach to make me think in ways I've never thought about my Christian responsibility. And that's why we want folks to pick it up and get a copy.
Well, and you talk about how one person can make a difference. In one of the chapters, you relate a story, and if you can just do it in summary, about Hartford Financial, an employee from that organization that saw your shelter and said, you know what, I want to get involved. I want to make a difference. What did they do?
Yeah, we love Hartford. Well, one individual employee came down and was sorting clothes in our clothing room. After that, she went back and brought a couple employees with her. Then she told her boss how much that she thought we were making a difference in people's lives. And he told her, go and apply for that local grant that they're able to get each year from us. So we got $1,000 from that. And then higher-ups heard about that, and there was a regional grant. And then when they got a new national president and he was visiting the offices across the country, we were presented with even a larger gift. And it all started with one single individual. Now all those individuals came and got a copy of the book, had lunch with us, and are promoting us throughout their company.
And I mean, they did toiletry drives or underwear drives and just different things that you could use there at the shelter as well. I mean,
they sure did. They do all types of stuff like that, and they bring employees down to serve the meal, higher-ranking employees and brand-new employees. They're all made aware of what we're doing to reach out to the need.
Wow.
Well, you keep talking about this book, 2535 Main Street, Rethinking Homeless America. That's the subtitle. Bob Sweeney is the author and is our guest. You have a foreword in there by Tony Evans. Of course, he's in the Dallas area. Do you get a chance to work closely with Tony?
We sure do. We sure do. Tony and his wife come to the shelter. They have toured it through. They sponsor one of our family rooms upstairs that they themselves have paid to redecorate. Their children are here. Many of their church members are here teaching Bible studies and mentoring and doing a great work for us.
Now, this book, how can I get a copy of it?
Well, first thing that folks could do is go to 2535mainstreet.com and learn all about it that way. That's the best thing that they should do. And as a result, our goal is to just see people realize that as they read it, it puts the light on for me. So 2535mainstreet.com.
John, I think maybe our listeners might be mulling this over now. May have some thoughts on this. Let's open up the phone lines and ask them to call with questions that they might have for Bob Sweeney, or perhaps a comment, maybe something that they've done, maybe a way that they've gotten involved with the ministry of
gotten out of the pew,
homelessness to the homeless. Yeah, gotten out of the pew and actually done some work on their behalf.
If you want to pick up the phone and call right now, you can talk to our guest here on today's issues, Bob Sweeney, and the number is 888-589-8840. I need my glasses, Marvin.
Okay.
That's 888-589-8840 is the number to call, and you can pick up the line right now and talk to Bob Sweeney, author of the book 2535 Main Street, Rethinking Homeless America.
Yeah, here, you can use my glasses. If you
Might not work.
Yeah, it wouldn't. I'm sure of that, because I've tried that little trick before, and it rarely.
This doesn't work.
It rarely works. Bob, your shelter, 25. What is the official name of your shelter?
We're Dallas Life. Yep, that's our name, and we're located in downtown Dallas, one of the largest shelters in all the country, the largest here in North Texas, and we are excited to see people that come to us come through one time. They don't have to come back again because they've put those principles into place, and now they're actively involved in their churches, rebuilding their lives, back with their families, going to work each day, paying their rent on time, and that's what we all want to see.
Now, there are a number of shelters around the country, and you indicated earlier, if I understood you correctly, that there are a number of other shelters around the country that are subscribing to these principles, 2535 Main Street. Are those shelters related in any way, or are those just independent shelters doing the same thing?
Yeah, well, there's of those 1,500 homeless shelters across the United States, 300 of us are in the AGRM, the Association of Gospel Rescue Missions. And within that group, the book is getting some circulation, and we're getting some phone calls from folks saying, how can we take 2535 Main Street and adopt it here and adapt it around what we're doing so that we might be able to have a better approach and see more effectiveness and more people graduate, and not just provide meals and shelter as important as they are. It's more than, as we say, 3 hots